Welcome back to another episode of the Inside Track Podcast, EchoBase's weekly handicapping podcast, analyzing the feature races of the week, as well as giving our selections and wagers. I'm your host, Ben Kudla, and I'm joined by a very special guest today, Colin Sheehan, the host of Doubling Down Podcast. Fantastic handicapper. I'm very excited to have him on the show to hear his picks and selections for these three wonderful races. You can follow the Doubling Down Podcast at Trust the Profits on YouTube. You can also follow Colin at CSheehan45 on X. So thank you so much for being here, Colin.
What an absolutely great weekend of racing that we have coming up. So it's my pleasure to be here. A fantastic handicapper. You're putting the pressure on me here to give the people what they want, which is the winners. But I just like to provide my experience, what I've learned, and apply that to the races that we have before us. And what better of a race weekend to do that than what we have in front of us at Saratoga, with an absolutely extremely competitive version of both the Jerkens and the Travers Stakes. And you had me go through the Ballerina as well. So we're making our way. I love that the past performances come out now on Sundays. It gives you the full week to really digest and then put out high quality content for those of us that are creating it.
No, it's very true. Yeah, those entries get drawn on Sunday for Saratoga. And yeah, you can really prepare. So excited to go through it.
We're happy to say that Matt DeSantis was on our channel, and he now works for Naru Bets, and so I think he helped get that moving to get the past performances out a little bit earlier. It's nice.
No, that's great to hear. Yeah, he's a nice dude. So fantastic. But before we start here, we just got to do a quick promotion for EchoBase. So you can get an annual subscription to Racelens for just $699. You can save $300 today with code RLA699S. Racelens, brilliant handicapping tool with fully customizable past performances, summary and individual research, customizable handicapping angles, advanced search notifications, as well as true odds predictive analysis. I use it daily. I know Doubling Down uses it on their podcast as well. Brilliant tool. So go ahead and take advantage of that promotion with codes RLA699S. So yeah, fantastic show lined up with Colin, handicapping the Grade 1 Ballerina Handicap, the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens Memorial Stakes, and the Midsummer Derby Grade 1 Travers Stakes. So let's start out with the Ballerina, the Grade 1 500K. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going 7 furlongs on the dirt. We got a field of 8 this year. Last year's winner was Echo Zulu for trainer Steve Asmussen, with Florent Giroux up. She won by 2.5 lengths and ran a 120 EchoBase speed figure, which is the highest EchoBase speed figure in Ballerina handicap history. So that was fun to watch last year. But anyway, Colin, who do you got? Who do you like here? Your plays, your picks?
Yeah, very, very good edition of the Ballerina here. I thought it was a little bit top heavy. You know, I really had a hard time getting past 3 horses. That's the 3, 4, 5 of Vava, Society, and Celia. Vava, obviously the 1-to-1 even money morning line favorite. When I see that, I immediately start looking, where can I beat this type of horse? She's really talented. Her last race, the last time she lost was against Alva Star. That was off of a layoff. Alva Star is a very talented horse. And I think she looks really tough here. She's a Grade 1 winner in the Derby City Distaff. Possibly the layoff that she has coming into this race is maybe a reason you could get past her. Sherry DeVoe is actually 0 for 7 on layoffs and graded stakes on the dirt, if you're really trying to dig in. And as I was trying to find things, but those stats to me, you kind of can toss out a little bit because of how talented she is. And one thing that I really have customized my past performances for is with Racelens, is finding horses with not only triple digit speed figures, but that have done it multiple times. And that's where I really landed on the 3, 4, and 5 as the 3 horses that have not only put up those triple digit speed figures at least once, they've done it multiple times. So Vava looks hard. I think that the 4, 5, and 8 are going to be early speed, and it's going to allow Vava to just sit off of those 3 horses, which is exactly what she wants to do. So even the race pace probably leans her way as well. If I was going to try to beat her, there was obviously the 2 other horses I mentioned were Society and Celia. Now, Celia, if you look at the past performances, okay, over on the right, you get a nice little red triangle that shows you when there was trouble. You'll see 4 back, it says bothered at the start, and you'll see in the last race, it said bobbled at the start as well. but you're going to show the replay from 2 back, okay? And this is the race at Churchill Downs. She's the number 4. So she's right in the middle. And you really have to watch her at the start here. Just watch the 4 with the pink helmet there, because it doesn't say it, but look, she's down a little bit and then is squeezed behind. You don't see that in the comments. But if you look at the race 3 back as well, it's the exact same type of start. So she's now had 4 races in a row where her start puts her in this type of position. Those previous races, Ben, were at a mile and a 16th. So I think having that start, she had the distance to make up for that poor start, right? And catch up on the horses and get to the finish line and finish it off. She gets Castellano back aboard. I think it was interesting to note that Mike Smith was on that last race, and you can go back and watch it where she really bobbled at the beginning. I think Mike might have been surprised because it's what she's done in every single race coming out of the gate. And I really love Scylla, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, is very consistent with the speed figures that she puts up. But when you're going up against a horse like Vava and Society, I'm concerned about the breaking out of the gate there. And so because of that, I'm gonna pass on Scylla. And I'll talk about Society in a minute. I'm curious to know where you who's on top for you.
Yeah, I really like Scylla. Yeah, I totally agree with those bobbled starts. But honestly, this is the biggest reason why I like Scylla. Trainer Bill Mott, with horses going from routes to sprints and graded stakes races. In the last 3 years, 14 starts with 5 wins, and 36%, and 7 in the money, 50%. So, and she wanted 2.5 lengths at that sprint, 6 furlongs. I know this is a 7 furlong, but she can do it on both. Yeah, we saw her, she closed back from dead last to first in that grade 2 Florida Lee at Churchill, swooping 5 wide a couple starts back. And she can also win on the front end like she did in the grade 3 Shawnee, also at Churchill. But I 100% agree with what you said. Very consistent, ran 100+ echo-based speed figure in 6 out of her 8 starts in her life, including running 100+ in her last 4 starts in a row now. She shipped out to Del Mar there for that grade 1 Clement L. Hirsch. If you watch that replay, it looked like she was a clear winner at the top of the stretch. It was just passed by that 3-5 favorite Adair Manor to lose by a couple lengths. So maybe this slight turn back in distance will help. But regardless, she did really run well. I do think she will beat Vava. I think she's going to show up on Saturday, but we shall see. I think the morning line is a little bit low for her, but regardless, I'm going to take that over a 1-to-1 any day.
Yeah, and the good thing there that you just mentioned is the versatility in the styles that she's won. So even though she has had those stumbles, if she hasn't, she's been able to get on the front end and win. And if she does and she needs to make up ground, she's been able to do that as well. So those are 2 things. And one cool thing about her is the Damn Close Hatches. She's a full sibling to Batten Down, who you'll see in the Travers Stakes as well, which is kind of cool. And Vinny mentioned that on my show this week, saying it'd be pretty cool to have, imagine if they both win. And Bill Mott knows how to place them. So those statistics that you read out are no mistake. He knows where to kind of put these horses. So I kind of changed my mind on my top pick just as we started to get ready for this show, because Vavo was going to be the horse that it's probably your logical choice. You said it's even money. I don't want to give out even monies. I wanted to go with Scylla, but the concerns that I had are going to have me look towards Society.
Okay.
Society, if you pay attention to the speed figures that Society has put up, the best are 116 and 112. Well, the dates that this Society has put up those was September 24th and August 25th. So to me, Society right around this time of the year is when she's running best. And I see that same progression this year of a 91 in November of last year. Comes first off the layoff, puts up a 104, and that was against Vava. And I think that she probably needed a race. And that maybe was probably why she, was finished as she did behind Vava. That was a race that Positano Sunset got up and passed Society in the stretch there. Society is going to be certainly some of that early pressure, some of that early speed. Tyler Gaffalione stays aboard. The concern is that those 2 big speed figures were at Parks and Charlestown.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I looked at. I'm like, oh man, are those speed figures really what they are? But I see a horse that progresses forwardly as we get towards the later months of the summer. And I'm hoping that the 5-year-old can come back with another big performance, sired by Gunrunner, and is 3 for 6 at this distance. Coming back from Churchill. Churchill down shippers have been incredible up at Saratoga this summer as well. So, I don't blame anybody for going any of these three. I had a hard time kind of finding my way through some of the others only because of that. I try to look at that consistency of triple digit speed figures if there are horses that have it in a race. If I had to put them in order, I'd probably go Society, Vava, Cilia. That would be my order of those three.
Okay, I love it. See, I actually put Society out of my top 3. Interestingly enough, I know what you're saying. Those big speed figures, but I can't get over her getting third to Positano Sunset, who's the one here at Morning Line 15-1. I don't know. I just see that last 2 races and it bothers me a bit. I just don't think she's that same horse that she was running that Grade 3 Chicago last year at Ellis in June. But sometimes those mares kind of turn 5 and they just don't really want to run anymore. And that is what it is. What do you think about that outside horse, A Seed, the 7, the Morning Line 8-1? I thought that was a pretty interesting horse because I had similar thoughts with this one like I did last week with Power Squeeze. Is like the numbers weren't amazing, but I mean she's just a consistent, like she's just different. She's getting better. I mean, first and second and 2 Grade 2s back to back. She won 4 out of 5 of her last starts. And her last start in that Grade 2 honorable miss handicap, she just missed by 3/4 of a length. And if you watch that replay, she was second to last with like less than a furlong to go and had this like huge surge at the end to barely get second. And that was run at 6 furlongs. And now we're stretching out 1 more furlong. She might need that. She's run twice on her life at that 7 furlong distance, 1 win and 1/3. And I love Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt at Saratoga. I mean, what a jockey trainer duo that is. I don't think she'll win, but man, at 8-1, I would love to see her underneath. So I'm going to go for my top play, Scylla, Vava, and A Seed. So I'm going to do a $5 exacta part wheel, Scylla with Vava and A Seed and Society on the bottom. So
nice. Well, I love it. You can't go wrong with Pratt and Chad these days, and Chad knows how to, even though there's a career best speed figure in the last race, when it's Chad, that can't scare you off. He knows how to continue to get horses like that progressing in the right direction. This horse was a Grade 2 winner at Belmont at Aqueduct in the Bed of Roses Stakes. I tend to really some foundational handicapping for myself is horses that have won Grade 1s are going to be above, a notch above the Grade 2s and the Grade 3s. And that's where it was continually hard to get over some of those ones on the inside.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, she's never won at Saratoga. Just 1 second, but I will see. Yeah. I think maybe underneath.
You get the price.
Who knows? But anyway, there's your Grade 1 Ballerina Handicap at Saratoga this Saturday. Next up, we got the Grade 1 500,000 H. Allen Jerkens Memorial Stakes for 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs on the dirt. Field of 11. I think this is our best betting race of the day. But anyway, last year's winner was 1 in Vermilion for Esteban Martinez and Irad Ortiz Jr. board, won by 1 3/4 lengths at 19-1. But anyway, fantastic race. I honestly had trouble kind of picking it. But I think everyone else will, so they'll kind of yield some higher payouts, hopefully. But who are your selections? What are you thinking here?
You nailed it. This is an incredible race. Going 7 furlongs, you get a lot of those horses that are cutting back from the Derby Trail, such as a horse like Timberlake, who had been trying the longer distances, and we said all along with Timberlake he needs to be cut back. You get Domestic Product, who's been running at those longer distances, cutting back for Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. And you've got Bookham Dano, who was cross-centered. He was cross-centered Friday night to run at Charlestown in a race that would have been the exact same purse. And it's very interesting that they announced today that Bookham Dano is going to go up here to this race where we're talking about, you could make a case for every single horse in this race. And
Just about, honestly.
just about. I don't know if I could make a case for the 11 because of the draw being way outside and the way that horse wants to run. I think Little Knee might be up against it, but Mark Cassidy obviously has been proving a lot of people wrong this meet. But Bookham Dano picking this spot, and I talked about it on my show this week. We talked about him. If he's running in here, you could possibly make a case to single him. He's just a really, really strong horse. And you
Yeah.
saw what he did in the Woody Stevens. Obviously, that was a race that Prince of Monaco was in as well, coming in off of a layoff, I believe, into that race and off of a Breeders' Cup, which is an angle I love playing against. Horses first time back after a Breeders' Cup race, to me, is always a bounce race, and that's what Prince of Monaco was up against, although that race was in June. So at some point, you start to fade that angle because you're so far removed from the Breeders' Cup. I think that the 7 furlongs is exactly where Bookham Dano wants to go. And, it's unknown if this trainer can repeat what was an Equibase best in the last race of 108 on the Jersey Shore. But I think Bookham Dano, who's only got 2 losses and literally combined by a length. This horse could be 8 for 8 with by a length. I think Bookham Dano is really hard to get by here. But as you mentioned, because this race is so competitive, I certainly think you could go in some other directions. Who was on top for you?
I actually went with World Record, and I'll just start out by saying what I don't like about Bookham Dano is that last race. Even though he won, I mean, if you watch, he barely won by a nose.
He did.
And to come off of
he was getting caught.
Yeah, getting caught, and it was at 6 furlongs. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just needed another race. He ran hard in the Woody Stevens. He just ran 0.9 seconds off the track record. But I don't know. I really like World Record. I think a very lightly raced 3-year-old, and when he wins big, he wins big. Increasing Equibase speed figures his entire life. Brissett wins at 23% all time when starting a horse with 3 consecutive increasing Equibase speed figures. 5 wins from 22 starts. A really nice performance in that Grade 2 Amsterdam at Saratoga on July 6th, winning by 6 3/4 lengths and running a career best 105 Equibase speed figure. Bookham Dano has had higher Equibase speed figures, but actually World Record gets the first ranking in average speed this race. And the past year, this is probably my favorite stat. Brissett and Luis Saez went at 36% together, 11 starts with 4 wins. That's hard to look past. This horse broke his main at this distance of 7 furlongs, winning by 6 1/4 lengths. So that's no problem. Breezing well at Keeneland, went 4 furlongs and 47 and 6 on August 17th. He's got a ton of potential, and if that price stays at 8 to 1. I'll take it. There's also another reason why I kind of like Otto the Conqueror, because if Otto the Conqueror just got second and World Record came back to win by 6 lengths in a Grade 2 at Saratoga, at 20 to 1, I'll put that horse underneath all day. Might as well, especially if you're doing dollar exactas. Costs you $1, you make a lot. So I'm going with that. I also like Timberlake as well. So back in the Haskell, I picked him for third. I ended up hitting the try because of him. I don't know. I think it's notable that he won a Grade 1. Bookham Dano did too. So did Prince of Monaco. That futurity, but he's an interesting horse for second. Love the drop back in distance. And trainer Brad Cox does particularly well with horses going from routes to sprints. In the last 3 years, he's wins at 27% and 61% in the money with horses going from routes to sprints, and that's out of 137 starts. 37 wins and 83 in the money. I think he's going to be really under bet, especially with Bookham Dano. So that's kind of my top two that I'm actually going to pick over Bookham Dano. I'll play a pretty deep trifecta, I think, on this race to try to hit big. I think it's going to be pretty spread out. I don't think people are really going to know exactly. Bookham Dano will be the favorite, but I don't think it'll be a heavy favorite. So.
Yeah, and since I'm coming to you from Doubling Down, I'm going to give the people a daily double bet was what I plan to give out today. And so I agree with you on the 1 World Record. It's a horse that I want to use in this spot as well. I think my concern for world record, you could show the replay of two back at Churchill Downs. So this horse, the two races that world record has won, the last race at the Amsterdam, that was a really speed favoring track, right? I mean, that day, it was just speed, speed, speed. And the two victories for world record have been wire to wire, right out to the front and take them and put the screws to them, really, as you saw. But if you play this race from two back, you'll see where world record, who's the number one. It's oddly enough
Number
the horse
one, yeah.
the rail all last three races. And in this race, Raging Torrent got out to the lead and was able to really set a comfortable pace here. Who's the number 6, I believe, Raging Torrent. And world record is in between horses and behind horses here, as you can see in the positioning. And in the two races where world record didn't get out to the lead, hasn't been able to close the deal. And it's a very small sample. There's only been 4 races.
Right.
But the first thing that jumps to my mind is, does world record kind of need to be on that front end? And if he's not, is that a concern? And that last race, I think, was probably a little inflated because of how fast the track was playing on that day. And I can't, that you watched that Amsterdam race. I mean, world record was just ultra impressive. The race was over by the time they got just out of the gate, and was able to put away that field. You mentioned lightly raced. There is the increasing speed figures. Saez is aboard. Like I said, I'm using world record because I can see this horse getting out to the front, just putting the screws and just not being caught. But I definitely have the concern here where I'd want to look elsewhere because of a race like this, where it gets behind and you don't see passing horses is not something I would say world record has done much of. A big pick who I'm really high on is the 3 domestic product. Flavien Prat had 4 options in here.
Yeah, he did.
Prat's been running on a lot of these other horses, including world record, and decides to go with the Clairvish for Chad Brown, domestic product number 3, who's cutting back in distance here. I think this is a talented horse. He's going to be coming from off the pace. So the horses that I kind of have wanted, and you'll see in my structure of ticket here, is horses that have come from off the pace and horses that have had success at the 7 furlong distance, which is a little bit of a quirky one. It's not necessarily a sprint, although it's categorized in that, and it's not really a route. And you want horses, to me, when I see 7 furlongs, I'm looking for horses that are successful at that distance. Although domestic product's not successful at the distance, he is going to be a horse that's coming from off the pace and closing. And so if you get a lot of that pace from the 1, the 4, the 7, I don't know if the 11, who is all speed, is going to be able to cut across this field. This is a strong field, and I don't know if Little Knee's going to be able to get out to where he wants. But if he does, you could have a nice fast pace up front, which is going to set up nice for domestic product. And I'm playing a little bit of the game of let's follow the best jockey, who you talked about in the last race, deciding to go aboard domestic product. So for my ticket, I'll use the 1, the 3, definitely the 8 Bookham Dano. And then I agree with you. I think Auto the Conqueror is a nice price at 20 to 1. Another horse who, will be forwardly placed. I drew a line through on my race lens past performances, the mile and the 16th races, because those are the ones that stand out of a 10th, a 5th, and the 6th. And suddenly you have 6.5 and 7 furlong races, including 2 back-to-back 105 speed figures in a race in which he actually beat world record on June 30th in Churchill. That same race that we kind of just looked at. I think Out of the Conqueror for a price play is absolutely one that you said underneath. I could see, maybe not fast enough on the front end early, but I could see a situation where maybe Out of the Conqueror gets the job done too. So for our daily double, we'll go 1, 3, 7, 8 in the first leg here of the Alan Jerkens.
I love it. I love it. I just want to say one thing about Bookham Dano, and maybe there will be a jockey change just because he was cross-entered. But the fact that I read Ortiz Jr. chose Speakeasy over Bookham Dano, I thought that was a very interesting decision to go on a horse who's only won allowance 110, non-winners, optional. But
yeah, well, Speakeasy was the horse that member scratched on Fountain of Youth Day in Florida. And I think there's a question here of how talented Speakeasy is. And I say that in a good way, meaning there could be a ton of talent here. Pletcher and Irad, That's a horse that I'm definitely concerned of, who I left off on my doubling down ticket, but my guest this week made a big point to use Speakeasy. So we'll see which one of us is correct, but I can't fault people. And that's a good point on the jockey position there.
Yeah, and I forget, I haven't pulled up the numbers for this race, but when I was handicapping the Belmont, actually, so Todd Pletcher, when he doesn't have a morning line favorite in a Grade 1 race at Saratoga, since 1991, he's 0 for 75.
Wow.
I thought it was really interesting. I could be
Wow.
saying that wrong. That's why I picked against him in the Belmont for Dornick. But yeah, I thought that was wildly interesting. I think it's definitely a good money-making race. So I'm going to go as a backup. I'm going to do $10 to show on Auto the Conqueror just to win your money back if you can. But for a dollar try, I'm going to do world record on top of Timberlake and Bookham Dano, on top of Timberlake, Bookham Dano, Auto the Conqueror, Little Knee, and Prince of Monaco. There is your Grade 1.
Yeah, Prince of Monaco, I think, is a good value play underneath. Even though it's 4-1, you're getting Baffert. I think needed that race last in the Woody Stevens, and ships him back here is certainly showing confidence in Prince of Monaco. I think that's a good horse to put underneath as well.
Yeah, definitely underneath. I don't know if he'll win, but yeah, I just feel like Baffert recently, I don't have the numbers, I should have, but has just not been doing well shipping in to Saratoga. So
Yeah,
I just have a feeling I don't think he's going to run too well.
Yeah, he's had 4 shippers and 1 winner, which was National Treasure. And I know this because I'm 0 for 4 because I played against National Treasure Belmont Stakes weekend. I loved Imagination, who didn't get it done. Then I jumped on National Treasure, who didn't get it done Whitney weekend. So
Right.
I have been completely missing on Bob Baffert. So we probably just put him in the winner's circle for me not picking him this week.
Well, we'll see. I hope you hit it, get that first leg. But anyway, there's your Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens Memorial Stakes at Saratoga. So last but not least, we have the Midsummer Derby, the 155th running of the Grade 1 $1.25 million Grade 1 Travers Stakes for 3-year-olds, going 1.25 miles on the dirt. Very competitive field of 8 on Saturday. Some legendary horses have won this race, including Sea Hero, Holy Bull, Thunder Gulch, Lemon Drop Kid, Medaglia d'Oro, Birdstone, Bernardini, Street Sense, and the list just goes on. So last year's winner was Arcangelo for Javier Castellano and trainer Jenna Antonucci's second Grade 1 win of all time, where he beat Mage, National Treasure, and the favorite Forte. And Torpedo Anna, I love it, trying to make history as the first filly since 1915 to win the Travers Stakes. There have only been 7 fillies who have won the Travers Stakes in history. So anyway, who do you got?
Well, let's start with Torpedo Anna and how great of a story this is, not only just for the Travers, but for horse racing. The content that we've been seeing daily now of she's going to be in the paddock at 3:00. And I stayed Sunday late Whitney weekend when she was supposed to be 3:00, and then they moved it to 4. And I said, okay, I have to go. But there's a buzz around Torpedo Anna, and which you always get with a filly, right? I think back to Swiss Skydiver and the Preakness, and I was very confident in Swiss Skydiver that year. Made some good money on Swiss Skydiver. Torpedo Anna, I love. I've had this horse since the race prior to the Oaks. I was happy to have Torpedo Anna for the Oaks. We closed out the group pick 5 at Saratoga in the Acorn with my friends up at Saratoga.
All right.
And so Torpedo Anna to me is already pulling at that heartstrings before we even come into this situation where she's taking on the boys. So to me, the story in and of itself is awesome, and I wish nothing but the best for Torpedo Anna. I think she's got a great shot in here. I think that she's in on the rail, which you've seen plenty of chatter about being detrimental to her, but she's able to come from off the pace, and if she lets door knock, unmatched wisdom, fierceness, all to her outside, those are the 3 you figure are going to go. Vinny disagreed with me in that she's going to end up behind those, and that could cause a problem for her. Or there's a situation where she's on the rail, she just gets out to the front, she slows it down, and she's got it in the bag at the end for a race that's going to be longer than what we've seen from her. But the one thing that I will mention about Torpedo Anna is if you watch her replays, how much has she been asked? I mean,
it's very true.
And that was thank you for Race Lens and how quick it is to look at replays, because I started using it right prior to the Kentucky Oaks, And when I watched that race at Oaklawn prior to it, that was the biggest thing that stood out to me, was that Brian Hernandez is coming around, passing horses and not even moving, barely moving his arms, and she's just pulling away. Now, in this race here, gets off to that tough start. And you have to remember that not only did she lunge at the gate there in this last race, 2 races ago, she lost a shoe,
Yeah,
ran a race
that's right. Yeah, in that first
without a
turn.
shoe, you
Yeah.
know? So she's made it look easy, and it hasn't been as simple as you might think. She's had a little bit of things to overcome, which is a knock we've had on Fierceness for so long, right? Is, can he overcome something like that? And the jury is still out. I think she's certainly up against it here, and that's what makes this race so intriguing and
Mhm.
so interested to talk to people about. You can feel the energy coming out of me. Looking forward to Torpedo Anna returning to the track, and you'll see. I mean, when she gets going here, Brian Hernandez is barely moving. Now, this race, which was her last in the stretch, you do actually see him pushing her. And if there's a little bit of a concern that you have, it's how much did she win by? And when he is asking her, do you really see that pull away that you want? But I'm not passing up using Torpedo Anna. I love this horse. I would love the story of her being able to pull off this unimaginable victory here in the Travers Stakes. As you said, no fillies won it since 1915. Lady Rutha, just a really cool story. Look at that. The jockey is
I mean,
as
he's not even
stoic
moving his hands.
as
Yeah.
he's not doing anything. And goodbye to this field. It's a small field. The Alabama maybe, Candied obviously came up a little bit short, and it makes
Mhm.
you, maybe that's a bad knock for Torpedo Anna. You can see here, this is the most he's had to ask her to do anything in any of the races. So I'm in on Torpedo Anna. Are you using her?
Um, See, for this race, so your heartstrings are kind of with Torpedo Anna. My heartstrings are with Dornick.
Yes.
I've loved
Well,
that horse for a
he's
long,
my other
long
horse.
time.
He's my other horse. So we're good.
He's won me a lot of money, so I'm gonna do $50 straight up to win on Dornick. I think he's got it in the bag. That being said, I would love to see Torpedo Anna win. I think that would be very, very cool. I would not be upset at all to lose that $50 to watch her win. Um, and I don't know if I'm sure you follow Kenny McPeak on Twitter, but it's so cool watching her train all the time. I love how he's giving the people what they want and to see her train. And she's been training maybe better than any 3-year-old out there right now. I mean, she just breezed that Bullet 5 furlong there on August 17th and 59 and 81 seconds.
And I don't know
One
if you saw
thing,
the video today, though. Brian was trying to slow her down, and she did not want to be slowed down. She just kept going.
really, okay, I read a little something that she's a little too strong and they got to change up what they're doing for training, but I did not see the video. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and
And
look that
Kenny
up.
tweeted it. So you're right. Kudos to him for showing us that, because not something you normally. The only time you see all that type of workout videos is Derby week, right? When everyone's
Right.
suddenly a workout expert.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, you are right. I don't think we've seen the best of her yet. I mean, she really has barely been asked. It'll be interesting going a mile and a quarter versus mile and eighth. It's not a huge difference, especially with the run-ups these days. Have been interesting. But I don't know. I think speed might be another issue. She's ranked 5th out of 8 on average speed in the race. Um, and this is one of those races, maybe numbers aren't what you're necessarily looking at, but I do want to point out that besides Torpedo Anna, trainer Kenny McPeak has not won a graded stakes race at Saratoga in the last 3 years. So again, I don't know if you can put much merit on that just because Torpedo Anna is Torpedo Anna, but I'm gonna throw that out there regardless. But yeah, Dornick, my number one play, my boy. The only 2 things he's really ever done wrong is the Grade 1 Bluegrass, where they tried a different running style, and then obviously the Grade 1 Kentucky Derby, where the worst post position you could possibly get. You're really up against the odds there. I thought it's interesting too. So 6 horses since 1991 have come out of the Haskell to go on and win the Travers Stakes. Most recently was Keen Ice in 2015. I mean, Dornick's just been getting better and better. And if you take out the Derby, Dornick has 3 increasing speed figures in a row, and here's something that I pulled off on Shift. Unfortunately, this is not on Race Lens, but since 1991, Danny Gargan wins at 34% with horses with 3 consecutive increasing speed figures, 11 wins from 32 starts. I don't know. He pulls on my heartstrings. I hope he'll win, but I also kind of hope Torpedo Anna will win too. The question I have is fierceness. I was so wrong about him and the Jim Dandy. I don't know what to say about him here. What do you think about fierceness?
Yeah, I've been wrong about fierceness every time as well. So there's a little bit of bitterness in there. Going back real quickly to Torpedo Anna, you mentioned not to use the speed figures. Well, that would be the concern for Torpedo Anna. The speed figure going by Equibase, which I've become very accustomed to trusting. You know, her last race was her best, that 105.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really lead up or hang with Dornock, who's done 102, 106, 107, Fierceness 110, 108, 110. Sierra Leone 104, 106, 109, 107. You're just reading off a lot more speed figures for those other 3 horses that are, as I've talked about on the first race, right? That's what I look for. I want to see not just that one. And Torpedo Anna has done it twice. You know, the Kentucky Oaks, the Fantasy was a 101. The exact thing that you just said is she fast enough is possibly a concern. I love Dornock. He's my boy as well. Those would be the 2 that I'll center my tickets around. Fierceness, I don't, like I said, he's my enigma, but I talked through this last night. You can, people have mentioned him being inconsistent, but I think you can draw some lines through races with logical reasoning, right? So you're going to draw a line through the Derby for Dornock. I draw a line through basically all horses in the Derby, unless it's like Epicenter style or Forever Young, horses that are closing late and are up against things and show talent in that way. But that's just such a unique race. So you draw a line through that one. You can draw a line in my mind through the Holy Bull. A day I absolutely love him, and just he's coming off of the Breeders' Cup. I should have used my angle of fading horses out of the Breeders' Cup. He was off the layoff. It's his first race of his 3-year-old season. Perfectly logical to draw a line through a race like that. And I don't think he liked the slops. You can draw a line through that race in October. Even though he won on the muddy track, is people, but let's just,
it's pretty different. Sloppy and muddy. I mean,
yeah. So let's cross the line through those 3 races. Suddenly you've got a horse who's gone 102, 110, 110, 108. That talent that we've seen in those races is able to win this race. I think he's got a pretty good position where Dornock's going to go, and Fierceness is going to want to just sit off his side, and he can basically just follow alongside Dornock and get into really good position forwardly placed. And if he's able to let Dornock and the Unmatched Wisdom kind of go at it and sit off of those 2, and he's faster than Torpedo Anna, this might set up really nicely for Fierceness. And the good thing is you're getting 3-1 maybe off of Fierceness, which we haven't gotten in a while from him, but he's tough, man. He's tough with the times I've trusted him. He's let me down. I was all on him on the Holy Bull, all in on him in the Derby, and then faded him in his 2 victories his last 2 times. So I don't know what to do with him. The other question, Sierra Leone. This is a horse I'm okay fading. He's just hasn't gotten it done. I keep hearing about how he's the most talented horse and he's the best horse, and the pace is going to set up for him here. So if he doesn't win this time, how much longer do I have to hear about Sierra Leone being the best horse that you need to play? And go through my Twitter mentions when I asked about Torpedo Anna, or I asked who people like. It's like Sierra Leone. Pace sets up for Sierra Leone. If Sierra Leone beats me, just like you said, Torpedo Anna beats you, then I'll tip my hat and say, okay, I'm wrong. And finally, I can actually maybe start to look into him and trust him in a more trusting way than I can now. He's just kind of always come up short. He's going to get the pace to run at, I would imagine here.
I would definitely say so. But I'm very glad you mentioned that, because everybody keeps saying the talent, and he just cannot really get it done. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, he's an interesting horse, and I mean, I like the connections there, but we'll see. I kind of crossed them off. I mean, with Dornick and Torpedo Anna and Fierceness, I don't think he matches up a whole lot. He'll probably get 4th or 5th. He'll beat the others, but I think it's just too competitive. But we'll see. I mean, it's hard to throw out a horse like that, second in the Derby, third in the Belmont, second in the Jim Dandy. But yeah, I mean, when you go back and look at Fierceness, you throw those out. I mean, who wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile by 6 1/4 lengths over Muth of all horses, and then comes back to win 13.5 lengths on the Grade 1 Florida Derby? I mean, that's just insane numbers. I mean, this horse is uber talented. I really hope we get to watch him run as an older horse because I think he'll become more consistent and better. I really hope they don't retire him early. But we'll see. I mean, I'm all in Dornoch, though. I can't give it up. So.
And I'll use Dornoch and Torpedo Anna to close out my double. So we'll go 1, 3, 7, 8 in the first leg with the 1 and the 7 here. And pay attention to probables. That's why daily doubles are so great. That's why I do the show. You can look at the probables prior to the first leg and know what the payouts are. So if your ticket, which is going to be $8, is paying less for Dornoch with some of those combinations, you put a couple more dollars on those ones to make sure you make money.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very smart. Good deal. Well, thank you everybody so much for watching. Thank you, Colin, for being here. This has been fantastic. I've had a ton of fun. And yeah, so everybody, good luck on your wagers on Saturday, and we'll see you next week.